everyone, Jeremy Gerard from Mythic Customs here with another one of my short customizing tutorial videos. Today I'm actually going to talk about combining a very cool line called Articulated Icons with Mythic Legions. So since I got started customizing Mythic Legions, I've combined parts from other toy lines with Mythic Legions to really change the look of them and to add some new depth. One of the lines that I've loved using recently are these samurai figures called Articulated Icons that were sold a number of years ago by a company called The Swoosh. So I'll put the link for where you can find these in the description for this, this video. But to give you a little bit of background, these figures, which are about 6 inches tall, they were released a number of years ago through a Kickstarter that The Swoosh did, shortly after the first Mythic Legions Kickstarter. When I originally got them, I got them because I imagined actually integrating them with Mythic Legions and having some like samurais and ninjas with my Mythic Legions. Well, when they finally did come in, this was around the time that the Mythic Legions 1.0 style, the larger figures, were available. These are more of a true 6-inch scale, while Mythic Legions are more like 7-inch, especially the 1.0 figures. So I found these to be a little too small. On their own, they're really, really cool figures. They're very articulated, super detailed, lots of accessories, definitely very cool figures, and I just displayed them on their own. But when Mythic Legions 2.0, which the smaller frame figures came out, these were the females and the goblins and the elves and so forth, when those came out, the size of these actually worked a lot better with those Mythic Legions figures, especially the weapons and the armor. So a while back I did a whole series called Mythic Shoguns, and it really started with these. It started by using these, and it really started with this figure here. So this is my kind of custom female elf warrior. She's my version of the character of Mulan, actually. A while back I had seen some artwork that was reimagining the Disney princesses as warriors. It was really, really cool artwork. And I looked at the character designs and said, wow, those would make wonderful action figures. So I took it upon myself to actually do some Mythic Legions female princess characters that were inspired by the classic Disney characters, Jasmine, Snow White, Cinderella, so forth. And one of the ones I did here was this Mulan. And this uses an Artemis silver cord head. I replaced her large crown with one from a Malachi Cinderhorn. But the big change here is the Articulated Icons armor and weapons. So this is what started me down this path, creating a whole bunch of different figures with that same armor. I'm going to show you today how you can combine them. So first things first, these Articulated Icons figures, again, I'll put the link in the description. They're available from a website called The Swoosh. It's like a toy online magazine type website. When these were available in the Kickstarter, they were like $50, which is a little pricey for, you know, a figure like this, but it's from a small company. It was their first foray into action figures. Totally made sense, and actually they're definitely worth it. They're really, really cool figures. Definitely as a first attempt at toys, there are a few problems. The hands, I find, tend to pop off easily when you're posing them with the weapons, but they pop right back on and they stay in place. So super minor things, definitely very, very cool. Well, at the time that I record this video, these have been out for a number of years, and they're actually now on clearance. Instead of $50 that they were during the Kickstarter, or they sold for $52 after the Kickstarter, these are now available, at least as I record this video, for 20 bucks. At $20, these things are a steal, especially if you're going to integrate them into Mythic Legions. They have 4 different samurais available. One of them is this one here. This is called the Temple Guardian. They're all $20. This is the only one that's a little lighter on accessories than the others. This one comes just with, you know, what you see here pretty much, the samurai figure and a pair of swords. All of the other samurais come with additional weapons. So in addition to the 2 swords, you're going to get like a really cool spear. You're going to get a cool bow, like a nice wooden looking bow. It comes with a quiver as well. You're also going to get like a cool like bat type weapon, which you'll see in a moment. Lots of cool stuff that you can outfit your figures with. In addition to that silver one, there's this one that I've been showing that's in red. There's this one here that's more got like a greenish and bluish palette. And then there's one that's in like a darker armor, like almost a black, dark gray type armor. They're all super cool, and I've actually used all of them. So what you're going to want to do is when you pull them out of the box, they will have the armor on. Now, I've seen some people that slice the armor to get it off. You don't need to do that. If you do that, you will actually be permanently modifying, permanently damaging the armor. It's not necessary. You can get these off with some hot water. So what I tell people is boil a mug of water, put it get a mug that you use specifically for your action figure customizing, put it in the microwave for 2.5 minutes. When you pull it out, drop the figure in. And what I do with the figure is the first thing I do, I put them in legs first and I pull the legs off. Then the arms come off a lot easier than the legs do, so you might be able to just pull the arms off naturally, but if it gives you any resistance, put the arms in as well, dip it in head first, and you can pull the arms off. But once you pull all those pieces off, you're just going to be left with pretty much the torso, and the armor is going to be on that torso. I find it easier to push this body down. Now it's got no arms, that's not going to block it there. Push it down so you're just revealing the armor. You're just releasing the armor. These side pieces are glued in. Sometimes those will release. Some people will tell you that if you just pull that glue apart, it makes it easier to remove them. I like to leave them intact if I can. If they release, it's really no big deal. You won't notice it once it's on the new figure. You could always re-glue it, but that's how I like to pull it off. Put it in the hot water, pop the legs off at the hips, pop the arms off, and then just push the actual torso part down to reveal the armor. Now, putting this on a Mythic Legions body. Remember, this works with 2.0 style figures. So you're talking goblins, you're talking elves, females, or even like the 2.0 style vampires and skeletons. So not the vampires and skeletons with the larger 1.0 bodies, but like the vampire knight or the skeleton soldier that came with the 2 torsos, the male and female torso. All of those will work. What I do is, once again, make sure this is hot. So if you've been pulling things apart and it's been out of the water for a little bit, the plastic's probably started to cool. Put it back in the water. Make sure it's nice and malleable, nice and pliable. And then what I find is to take the Mythic Legions torso, and you'll notice I've pulled the legs off, I've pulled the arms off. All I have here is the torso itself. And what I do is I actually push that in from the top. So I pull out the articulated icons figure from the bottom. I push in the Mythic Legions torso figure from the top. What you will find is there are little pieces on the Mythic Legions torso, like on the sides, there's little buckles and straps. Those may get caught sometimes. So if you feel like it's snagged, it's not going in, just look. You've probably just snagged that on the edge of the armor. Just kind of move it around to clear that space. But what you'll do is you'll push that in and then straighten it up, and that torso will actually be inside the armor. At that point, you can pop in the arms, pop in the legs, pop on the neck and head, and the armor will be securely fastened to your figure. And you can do a variety of really cool things here. So I've got some of the customs that I've done that I can show. Here's a goblin that I did. So this is using a Thwick body. And all I really did here was I replaced Thwick's normal curly horns with some of these antlers that I had in my fodder bin. And you can see that samurai kind of helmet crest that I have there. That's a piece that actually came with the articulated icons. Almost all of the samurais come with 2 different crest emblems. So what I did here, you can either do one of 2 things. It's got a little peg. You can either cut that peg off to make it flat and just glue it onto the front. That's the easiest thing. I went a step further. I actually drilled a little hole in the front of Thwick's head, in front of his helmet, and I put some glue and I pegged that right in. So I actually made a peg hole so I could still use the peg that's on the helmet crest. That's obviously a little riskier because you're taking a drill to the Mythic Legions figure head. It's not terribly hard, but you definitely want to be careful when you're doing that. Besides that, you can see that bat that he's holding. That's one of the weapons that comes with the articulated icon samurais. But that's really all that I did here. I did add a little bit of paint and weathering to it to make it look more within the Mythic Legion space. It's a goblin after all. I want it to look a little grimy, but super easy custom. Adding that armor on that gives you a whole different look. I did that here. This is a Grisha body, and what I did was I put an elf ranger head on him. In this mask that the elf ranger is wearing, this actually is also another piece that came with the Articulated Icons set. They all come with two masks, this full mask and then like a little half mask. I think the only one that doesn't come with the half mask is the silver one I showed, the Temple Guardian they call it. But very, very cool. So you can pop that mask on and you can have an elf samurai with that mask. For an example, I'll show you the half mask. So you can pop the half mask on as well. And they're just really held there by friction. They're tight enough to kind of grip the head and they just hold themselves there. But that's an example of using an elf style body. So you can do some really cool stuff there with the elves. Elf Legion Builder, the Shadow Elves, all of those are going to look really, really cool. Here's an example where I actually painted the armor black. So none of the Articulated Icons come in a pure black armor. The one that I showed on the Goblin, which is a grayish, that is the closest. But I painted this one totally black. And what I did here was made a vampire with it. Once again, this helmet is actually the full helmet from an Articulated Icons figure. And the way that I got that on the head was actually pretty interesting. I did it the same thing here with the skeleton. What I did, I'll show you with the skeleton, because the vampire, I did have to trim his ears a little bit to get it to fit. The skeleton, that helmet goes right on. So again, this is the 2.0 style skeleton. But what I did was inside of that helmet, there's a little peg. And that little peg on the Articulated Icons heads, there's a little hole in the back of the head that pegs into. Well, that hole doesn't exist on Mythic Legions. So the trick that I used was I put a little bit of paint right on that peg itself. And then I lined up the head and I put it on. Now, it won't actually snap in because the hole's not there yet, but I just got it to where it looks good. And then when I remove the helmet, that little bit of wet paint will have created a dot on the back of the Mythic Legion's head. That's exactly where that peg wants to go into for the helmet to fit nicely. With that little dot painted there, that's my guide, I took a drill and I just drilled a very small hole in the top of the Mythic Legion's figure's head. And then that now allows me to peg that head in and it fits perfectly fine and it's nice and secure. And again here, this is an example of using it on a skeleton body. And this actually uses that Temple Guardian, that silver armor I showed you earlier, but I weathered it a little bit. The shoulder pauldrons are actually from Mythic Legion. So you can see how you can combine these two lines to create some really, really cool characters. You can go even further. One of my favorite figures that I have right here is this cool Samurai Kitsune that not only uses a variety of Mythic Legions figure body parts that are combined in a way that I like. It also uses the Articulated Icons Samurai armor, and it uses this awesome custom Fox Kitsune head and tail that was produced by Wolf King Customs. So these are parts that I had a role in bringing to life, and they're near and dear to me, and they look great in my opinion on these samurai-styled Mythic Legions figures. Now, another cool thing is after you're done doing this, so you've bought these figures for, say, $20, you've pulled off the armor, you've put it on one of your Mythic Legions figures to create a new samurai, this is what you're left with. You're actually left with a cool ninja. So they all come with two heads, more like a human-style head. You saw the one that I had earlier. This is actually the exact same figure. So this is, I believe his name's Fumetsu, the Undying Ronin. This head is what it comes with in the box, but in the package there's also that separate fully masked ninja head. So if you buy a couple of these, say you buy that red ninja, you buy a couple of these dark ninjas, when you're done, or I should say samurais, when you're done pulling off that samurai armor, you still have some cool figures that you can use with some of your other displays. If you collect Mythic Legions, these are a little small, but maybe Marvel Legends, they definitely blend in better with Marvel Legends or lines like that. Or they're just cool ninja figures that you can put on display as well. So once again, Super easy to do. I'll put the link to buy these from thefwoosh.com in the description on this video. Get them, pull them apart. It's really, really simple. Just take your time, pull that armor off. You don't have to ruin it. You can pop it on any of these 2.0 style figures. Give yourself a whole new depth of kind of characters to use, a whole bunch of new display options, a bunch of weapons you can outfit them with, so you can create your own Mythic Shoguns. Thank you for watching. If you find videos like this helpful, certainly let me know in the comments. Give the video a like. That's always helpful. I always love to see that. And if you're not subscribed to my channel here, please do so. That will notify you whenever I put up new videos like this, or my live Mythic Conversation show goes live on YouTube. You can check that out. As far as these customs here, if you'd like to see better pictures of any of those, you can find those on my website. That is www.mythiccustoms.com. All one word. I have pictures of all of the customs I do, including recipes, on that website, including all these. Thank you again for joining. I can't wait to see what you make.